Bookplates are labels pasted inside a book to mark ownership, and the bookplates most of us know about are produced in multiples, tens, hundreds, thousands, to suit the size of the library or the section of the library that they mark. There's a sort of an uncertain category that may be referred to as manuscript bookplates, manuscript ex libris, hand-painted or hand-drawn bookplates. And they're generally unique because someone has painted something or drawn something inside a book for a special, for special purpose. There's not much published about manuscript bookplates, certainly not in the sort of academic sense. There's a few articles in collectors' societies, journals like the Journal of the Book in Britain, and our own newsletter of the New Australian Bookplate Society. And obviously they're very hard to find, so you have to be going through thousands of books to find them. And I think most people don't have time to do that unless they're absolutely passionate bookplate collectors. Okay. Because this is a sort of an academic conference, I thought I'd do a little bit of theory to form a bit of a background to this work. And so I've been working on a sort of a framework for categorising and describing bookplates, and I don't think there's been anything done like that I found sort of in the literature. And so this slide just shows the sort of purposes of bookplates. Personal or institutional ownership, the universal bookplates that you can buy at the newsagent, that you write your name in, bookplates that mark prizes or gifts, that mark a donation of a book to a library. There are some memorial bookplates that are inserted in books after the death of the owner and either given to institutions or given to friends and relatives. And then I'm not talking about, the sort of bookplate that's a design printed into the front of the book where you put your name in, or what seems to be an increasing fashion for a piece of paper with the author's signature as a way of, selling new hopefully bestsellers. So that's purposes, and then looking back at bookplates in terms of the value. Bookplates, they're singular as a group, as a work of art or a production of a printer or a studio. The provenance, which is obviously very important. Reading studies, what books particular individuals owned and hopefully used. The social history of the owner, what does the book or bookplate designer say about the owner? Then there's an emotional connection maybe with, you can look at a bookplate, pick up a book with a bookplate in it and just, it sort of triggers, okay, what was that person about? They were interested in the same sort of books I am, for instance, or book production methods. And then the enhancement of the beauty and or the value of the book, which is often contested by booksellers who often believe books should remain pristine in order to retain their value, monetary value or others. Obviously, there's exceptions, but generally speaking, the bookseller will say perfect, but includes a bookplate, for example. Okay. So one of the questions is how you find them. There, of course, there seems to be, been a big groundswell of interest in provenance, in book provenance. David Pearson's books, and I'm sure many other writings, have really focused on the huge variety of signs of provenance in books. I'm not a provenance expert. More libraries are more likely than they used to be to record the presence of a bookplate and other provenance evidence. Sorry, those of you who are professional librarians, if I'm overstating or understating. The fact that a bookplate is actually a unique hand-drawn or hand-painted item is not likely to be recorded, at least if you're looking online. So when I was preparing this talk, I put in manuscript ex libris and found what you can see there, which is from a University of Barcelona a book from the 16th century in the University of Barcelona, which says ex libris, the name of the priest that the book belonged to. So that's not really what we're talking about, but that could be the starting point for the discussion of the form. So I'm just going to talk about various forms, working up from the plain, less embellished to the, the more embellished at the end. Hopefully you'll appreciate those. So on the left there, you've got someone has just put in their name and Christmas, 1935, just in a book of Michelle John Verney, bought from Dimmock. So it's not the name, it's a name that's been, added to, a bit of decoration. I love the prize book plates that, school children generally used to in their schools or Sunday schools. This is just one that's been handwritten, basically. St. Paul's Sunday School, Deniliquin, Dorothy Kirkpatrick, second prize for a stamp album. And it's amazing. These are amazing because the range of things children were given prizes for, I think, is remarkable. The other remarkable thing, and I don't want to go into this, it's a whole new topic in itself, was that the rector of the Sunday school had the same surname as the recipient of the prize. So not saying anything there, but that's actually quite common, and I've got a bit of a collection of them, but that can be for another day. I'm not sure how well you can see this, but this is Will Bryce from his affectionate mother. So this is just a children's book on pictorial history of Scotland on the half title. I've enhanced it digitally, you might say, in the next one, just so you can read it a bit better. It's not as beautiful. So, I mean, the amount of effort, put into this is just beautiful, and they're unique. And, maybe it's not, it's not a book that, the Mitchell Library or the Fryer Library would necessarily collect, but, this is something that just says something about that book and that relationship. Okay. So the next sort of category is the labels. People have used sticky labels or just, and they've typed on them. So it's not really manuscript, so it's typescript or manuscript. And, there are typos in them, all sorts of things. And, they're probably not beautiful, but I think they're fascinating because it just, makes me wonder, what's been going on. So the top left, Judith Ann Glendenning, Scientific Investigation Bureau, Criminal Investigation Branch, and that was in a book on shorthand, basically. So, who is this person? They're, proud of the book. I mean, that's a label to me that shows pride and organisation, as you'd expect in the CIB, I hope. And, perhaps he was, a typist or someone like that, a shorthand typist. So, I mean, these are in various books. The one on the bottom right is a bit of chimes a bit of a chord with me. It's in a very old, tattered book of, nursing, a nursing textbook. And in pencil, it says, I've got it written down here somewhere. It's in Modern Methods of Nursing, published in 1917. It says faintly in pencil at the top, N. Lockwood, so that's the name on the label, just in ink on the label. Marupna Hospital, June 1918, and she said commenced training May the 17th, 1917. So it's just, you can just go back and think about this, probably a very young woman starting her nursing, stuck in a dormitory of nurses as they used to be, getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and being berated by the matron for not doing something. Sorry, medical background, my wife's a nurse, so I can just feel that. These are hand painted. These are like the next category up, slightly more beautiful, and again, individual. All except the one on the right were actually painted onto a piece of paper, which was then stuck into the book, which seems a good plan. If you make a mistake, you don't want to have that perpetually in your book. Erica Plavin on the left was in the Savoy, a book of the Savoy operas by Gilbert, and I presume she's depicting, you know, Yum Yum or someone from the Mikado about herself. Mary is just in Bindles on the Rocks from 1919, so that's just a fairly rough pen and ink sort of thing. Janet Koch is from 1890, just hand drawn again onto a piece of paper that's been stuck into her book, which was Austin Dobson at the Sign of the Lyre, 1890. Brett Hilder, who was the son of one of the sons of the artist J.J. Hilder, very famous watercolorist. He became a very well-known mariner, investigator, captained cargo vessels and so on, and was involved in the Second World War. And I think he was quite young when he did this, so obviously passionately devoted to ships and the sea. Margot Hensey on the right, she was an author and historian, and that's a very beautifully, meticulously drawn pen and ink with totems from, looks like North America. Bottom left, it says the Lloyd Joneses, Red East, Mossman, I think, April 1914, with a little drawing of a car, an open car from that era. Probably Charles Lloyd Jones, who is, you know, obviously of the Lloyd Jones, David Jones family. He actually studied art at the Julian Ashton Art School, which will come up on another example. And Tony Ray, I mean, it's lovely when you've got a series of depictions of the ownership of the book. So he received a prize from the school for physics, I think it was, or mathematics. This is in Stirring Deeds of Britain's Naval Might, published in 1940, Scots College Sydney prize plate, first in physics. And then he's hand-painted a beautiful sort of perspective name with his a sign with his name on it. So he became at one stage the headmaster of Newington College in Sydney, 1972 to 1993. So one could spend a lot of time trying to find things out about people. And these are just to mark gifts. So these are fairly simple. So this was ex libris on the left, G.I. Gillies from Douglas and David, and is in and dated 1953, and is in a book, Australian Poetry, 1953. And there was a Douglas Stewart and a David Campbell, whose poems were in the book. So I just wondered whether they were his friends. And the one on the right, just a carefully drawn Christmas gift in a novel, basically, published in 1940. These are also gift presentation or gift inscriptions, book plates, all from the 1940s, and I don't know anything about the recipients, but the two on either side have a vague similarity to them, but there was a Gordon Jones who was an artist. That's from 1945. On the right, CS, the Contemporary Art Society. So, you know, best wishes to Harry from some friends. And down below, Nolene with our love and best wishes from a number of friends, 4th of April, 1944. This one, it was somewhat tantalizing. So this is a book called This Side Idolatry, published by Mills and Boon in 1928. There's a bookseller's label from Swain's in Sydney. On the left side, the owner has used his business card. He was an engineer and patent attorney, director of companies. So, and on the right, someone has drawn in a portrait or self-portrait. And I just wonder if that's Kate the Martyr might have been a character in the book. I mean, what's more tantalizing and annoying is perhaps you can see that the front free end paper has been cut off. and all you can see is a trace of blue. So there was obviously something else in there that someone had drawn or painted in, which we'll never know, which I found very tantalizing. This one I love because this was in a copy of a book on Velasquez from the Nudes Art series. So this is to Sydney, and Sydney was Sidney Orr Smith, who was at the centre of the Sydney art world in the early part of the 20th century. Became president of the Society of Artists and published Art in Australia and did a whole lot of other things. He had actually been to art school, Julian Ashton Art School from 1902 from a few years. And so this is obviously drawn by VAQ. So from VAQ, who is Viola Ostral-Quaife, Ye Artist's model. So she's drawn a portrait of herself. In Christmas 2005, in 1905, Orr Smith was 19, I think. So these were two students at art school, and in fact, they fell in love and got married a few years later. Okay, so I'll just, running out of time. This is just a prize plate just drawn into a book, and just the beautiful layout and the design, quite unusual, from Fort Street Model School in 1900, December 1900. Now, these are the ones that I'm sort of ending on, because these are beautiful hand-painted prize presentation inscriptions or book plates into two poetry books that were presented to Dulcie Bull in 1916. She was a very prominent student at Askham, which is a private boarding school for girls in the eastern suburbs, Sydney's east. And she won the Askham Old Girls Union Prize in June 1916 and the Marie Wills Prize also in 1916. They're just beautiful things, and I'll be giving them back to Askham, as they've got a small collection of prize books from over the 130 years that they've been around. And this is another one. We don't know, these coloured ones, we don't know who the artist was, presumably someone at the school, just beautifully drawn. And this one is for another student, Lois Lindsley, who was the first student at Askham that actually sat the leaving certificate, so in 1919 or 1920. So again, a sort of a prominent, bright member of the school. And on the right, this is the only one. This is also hand-drawn, clearly by someone else, hand-painted. The border is beautiful. The lettering is, sort of an attempt, actually signed by Madeline King. So they're almost never signed, these hand-painted book plates. And Madeline King was an artist who actually taught at the school in 1918 and probably thereafter. So in conclusion, manuscript or hand plates are rare and difficult to locate. You need to start going through all your libraries and seeing whether there are any in there. They come in many forms. How you define them, I think, is a moot point. It probably doesn't matter if you're just looking at provenance. They fulfill some of the usual purposes of book plates to mark gifts or prizes or personal use, generally unique. They can help with provenance, of course, but can only open a small door into studies of reading and social history because they're single items. And whilst many are plain, some are of great impact, beauty, and are distinctive embellishments to books. Thank you very much.